right, thank you everyone for being here, and let's get started. My name is Medea Khan. I am a real estate agent in Toronto region, working across the Greater Toronto area, and I'm the founder of Toronto Condo Investments as well. Here we specialize in pre-construction condo investing, and today's webinar is going to help navigate through pre-construction condo investing. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for joining us, and I'm lucky to have Mark Harley with CentreCourt Developments join us as well. Mark is going to part of CentreCourt Developments, one of the most active builders in the Greater Toronto area. Mark is going to help us learn from the builder's perspective about how to identify great locations for pre-construction condo investing and why working with a reputable and experienced builder is really key in this market. Can everyone hear me okay? Thumbs up in the chat before I continue. Right, excellent. So the purpose of the discussion today is to understand pre-construction condo investing. We're going to talk about the market as well, always a hot topic at everyone's dinner tables about what's going on in Toronto's real estate market. We're going to walk through the pre-construction process as well, the purchase process, which looks quite different from the resale purchase process. And Mark will share pre-construction opportunities with us, investment opportunities available in the current market. So what is pre-construction? Pre-construction is literally pre-construction. So this means that it's not ready yet. It's not built yet. You're buying off of a floor plan. So you walk into a sales center and you purchase the unit off of a floor plan, and you look at brochures and renderings provided by the builder and a scale model of the building or the site scale model as well. It's very different from a resale transaction than most people are used to. You may have purchased your own resale home, or your friends and family have, where you book a showing, you walk into the unit or the property, and you're able to touch and feel it. With pre-construction, you're buying off of a floor plan, so you have to imagine what the space looks like. It's a very unique market, unique niche within real estate transactions, and it takes a few years for the transaction for the building to be completed because you're purchasing at the pre-construction phase. Purchasers sign an agreement of purchase and sale with the builder. And because the builder in this case is the seller and you are the buyer, so you're signing a contract with the builder actually, who's the seller of this product. Since it's not built yet, when you sign the contract, you don't actually own the asset. You don't own the property because the property is not built yet. What you own is the contract with the builder. Ownership of the property is only transferred to you once it's ready, which is different for each project you invest in. It could be from 3 to 5 to 6 years, depending on the project, depending on the builder's construction timelines. So your ownership, the title, is transferred to you once the property is ready and complete and you get the keys at final closing. So when you're signing a contract, when you're signing for the property, you're just signing a contract with the builder. Closing can take 3 to 6 years, depending on the project's timeline and construction timeline. Purchasers have the right to assign their contract to a new buyer before the property is complete. So you may have heard about assignment sales, and you're able to do that, but you're assigning your contract. You're not actually assigning the property because the property is not built yet. You're assigning the contract to a new buyer, and that's available to you. However, that needs to take place closer to the completion phase. So if the construction timeline for your project is around 6 years, you have to have builder's consent in order to actually assign the condo, and that can only take place closer to completion of the building. So key differences between resale and pre-construction. It's really important to understand the differences because it'll help you understand which market to focus on, whether your unique investment goals are more geared towards resale or more geared toward pre-construction. So let's look at resale first. This is probably the most you're more familiar with. You may have purchased your first home on the resale market, or your friends and family have. And a resale transaction is for properties that are already built. So the seller who's probably living in it, or a landlord who's an investor and renting this property, is putting up their property for sale in the resale market. You work with a realtor. The realtor books an appointment, a showing to look at the property. You walk through the property. You can touch and feel it. You know exactly what it looks like. And you know the market value because your realtors run some comparables for you. You're aware of the neighborhood. You're aware of the new product on the market. You know the exact property value, and then you can make an offer based on those comps. The possession is more immediate in nature. So depending on the terms and conditions you settle on or agree with the seller, you could be homeowner, or if this is an investment property, you could be a landlord in 30, 60, or 90 days, which means you have to have the capacity to take on a mortgage in the immediate terms because you will be owning this property. So you also have to have the capital in front to make this investment in the resale market as well. Because you're buying property that someone's already living in, there's no customization. You buy the property as is. The ownership transfer happens more immediate in nature, and you don't have the opportunity. You may be able to negotiate like a paint job or something, but for the larger property, it is as is, and there's no customization available to you. Whereas in the pre-construction market, it's different. You don't get to see the product. You're not walking in, you're to touch and feel because there's nothing ready yet. You're buying off of floor plans at the sales center. So the development stage you're buying depends on which stage of the life cycle of the project you purchase in. If you're purchasing in the early phases of the launch of the project, then you're looking at a timeline of at least 3 to 6 years. If you're buying post-construction with the inventory remaining, then you're probably looking at a shorter timeline. Or you're buying really close to completion, then it's an even shorter and more immediate in nature. However, you do have the opportunity to customize with the selection of suite finishes from the builder's packages. So every builder has different packages of colors you can choose from for your countertops, your tiles, your flooring, and you have the opportunity to choose those colors for your property closer to completion. The really interesting part for pre-construction investing, what investors are really excited about, is the deposit structure. The deposit structures vary in nature depending on the project and the builder, but it's an easier buy-in than it is to resell because it's spread out. So a general rule of thumb, and every project and builder has a very different deposit structure, but you're looking at 20% of the purchase price over 18 months, 2 years, or 3-year down payment. Now that 20% of this is of the total purchase price. So that's unit plus parking plus locker. Now you don't have to buy parking and locker. Should you choose to buy it, then it's 20% of that total purchase price. Typically, that 20% is broken down into 4 5% installments, and those are spread out over 2 to 3 years. So for example, your first installment will always be in 30 days from the day you sign. That's really non-negotiable across the builders, but the other deposit structures vary. So we've worked with builders who require 10% in the first year from the day you sign, or 5% second year and 5% in third year, with a total of 15% before occupancy, and the last 25% would be on closing. Now that again varies from builder to builder. We've seen 15% in the first year, we've seen 5% per year, really depends on the project. But the point being that you don't need all the capital up front on the day you sign. You've got time to make these payments. This is really important for first-time buyers and investors because it allows them time to save up for these down payments towards the property purchase. Okay. Ownership transfer is done in final closing. Like I mentioned before, the property isn't ready yet, so you're not owner of this property. You have signed a contract with the builder, who is the seller in this case, and there's no need to take a mortgage at this point. So because you don't own anything, you will not be taking a mortgage at this point. The mortgage will kick in when you're at final closing, when the building is ready and you have the keys in hand. So in today's time where in the market where it's a little unstable and unpredictable with the interest rates, a lot of investors find this really lucrative and comfortable, knowing that you don't have to worry about mortgage at this point. By the time the building is ready, by the time you get possession of your property, hopefully the market rates have stabilized and you'll be looking for a mortgage at that point. The resale agreement of purchase and sale, the contract, looks very different from the pre-construction agreement of purchase and sale as well. So it's really important to understand the differences between the two to make an informed decision of where you want to invest. The resale contract is usually around 7 pages long. It's written by your realtor. There is a firm closing date that you have agreed to with the seller, and that's usually immediate, 30, 60, or 90 days. And the lawyer reviews your contract after you've gone firm. So, and as soon as you make the offer and the seller accepts your offer, you are owning this property. With a pre-construction contract, looks very different. It's more than 50 pages long. You've got that's accompanied by a disclosure statement, which is also known as condo docs, which is another 200 pages long. But by no means are you, the buyer, expected to read through it. You should, but you should do it in conjunction with a lawyer. You need a real estate lawyer on your team here to help you look through and review this contract and the disclosure statements as well. However, it's advisable to work with a lawyer that specializes in pre-construction contracts because these look very different from a resale contract. Pre-construction contracts are similar across the board, across the builder. They're very standard. However, a lawyer that you work with needs to be well versed in this type of contract to be able to help you out and advise you accordingly. There's a tentative closing date. It's not a firm closing date like resale. And you find many builders will say occupancy starting from 2026 or spring of 2027. It's not a firm date because they haven't started construction. They're not sure what to expect. A lot can come up during the construction phase. So it's a tentative closing date. And you do with pre-construction, you have a 10-day cooling off period, which is different from a resale transaction. With the resale transaction, as I mentioned, as soon as the seller accepts your offer, you own this property. With a pre-construction transaction, you have 10 days from the day you sign to think about this about your purchase and do your due diligence. So these are 10 calendar days, and your purchase will go firm on the 11th day. Within the 10 days, if there's anything that you're not comfortable with, it's time for this is the opportunity for your lawyer to speak to the builder's lawyer about the contract, or if you choose to back out, you can do so within the 10 days. You have that opportunity to do that. That's 10 calendar days from the day you sign your contract. But you have to do 2 things in the 10 days. You have to get a pre-approval for a mortgage. And this is not taking on a mortgage, it's just qualifying you for the purchase price. And you also have to get your lawyer to review these condo documents within this 10 days cooling off period. The market outlook. So lots going on in the market. The media has some very sensationalized headlines, and it's important for you to understand and speak to experts working in the market on the ground. And it's important for you to understand all the fundamentals of the market and for you to make an informed decision. Now, the past few years have been quite unstable with the increasing interest rates and rising inflation. And we've worked very closely with our investors to help them achieve their unique investment goals. So we know there's rising inflation, and data proves that real estate investment is a great hedge against inflation. Many of our investors have been wondering if they should wait and see and stand on the sidelines to see where the market ends up being. That's a tricky place to be because it's really hard to time the market. Not many people can time the market accurately. As we've learned, economists have a tough time timing the market accurately because it's very unpredictable and you don't know what the future holds. But what we do know from data is spending time in the market is more important to be able to time the market. Toronto is a population growth story. I remember back in my first year of economics, it was we talked about how Canada is a population growth story, and that fundamental stays true in today's market as well. It's with the increasing population, increasing immigration across the country, and the Greater Toronto Area, and specifically Toronto, absorbing most of it. There's a high demand. High demand for property to purchase, property to own, and property to rent, and that upward pressure on demand and with the limited supply, unfortunately, our governments haven't addressed the supply side of the equation, not as rapidly and not as efficiently as they should have. The demand side is increasing and there's lots of pressure on that side, but the supply side doesn't match. And we'll walk through the more details on these fundamentals in later slides. But all that does is the higher demand, it actually puts more pressure on the prices. So the price to purchase property has increased, and the rent prices to rent have also increased as a result. We've seen over the past decades, prices haven't gone down significantly to warrant a market crash in Toronto, in the greater GTA, because of our population growth. And savvy investors are actually using this time to jump into the market because there's less competition and builders are offering some really great incentives. And the really great part about pre-construction condo investing is because you're not taking a mortgage on at this time, you don't have to worry about interest rates in the immediate terms. The higher interest rates don't impact you because you're not taking on a mortgage right now. The property is not, it's pre-construction, it hasn't started construction, and it won't be ready for another 3 to 6 years, depending on the project you're investing in. And that time, that's when you need to worry about the interest rates. And all the top banks and economists have predicted that this year is going to be the year that the interest rates drop. So by the time a pre-construction project is ready in 3 to 6 years, will be more favorable terms or favorable environment for interest rates. So regardless of market sentiment or conditions, housing is a basic human necessity. And that just points to the demand. There's always going to be demand for real estate. So let's walk through the real estate fundamentals. I think it's really important for you as buyers and investors to understand the market you're investing in and why Toronto still is experiencing the housing boom that it has over the past few years and what warrants those prices. So new immigrants came to Canada in 2022. We had around 455,000 immigrants. That's an immense amount of population growth. We know generally Ontario absorbs the majority of these immigrants. And that's 48.9%, almost half of the Canadian immigrants coming to Canada end up in Ontario. Majority of those end up in the Greater Toronto Area, specifically in Toronto. Toronto is a very desirable, cosmopolitan, thriving city, young city on the global scale. I find since we live in here, we probably underestimate the city of Toronto, but it ranks really high, and it's a desirable place to move to live in, to raise your family, to go to school, and to go to work. Toronto within Canada is the economic hub of the country. It is a large financial market within the country, and it's a large financial market in North America as well. So we've got the jobs, we've got the industry, we've got great education in schools and universities. We've got public health care and public education at the lower level as well. So these are reasons why most people end up in Toronto. However, when we were speaking earlier about the supply side, according to Urban Nation, which is a data company that focuses on new construction, only 32,000 condo units were completed in 2023. That's an unbelievably low amount of supply coming to the market. These are completions. So you're probably wondering, you're driving around the city and the skyline is dotted with cranes and construction, and it seems like there's just this surplus of properties available, and who's actually, your mind probably wonders who's actually going to live in here. But all those condos that are under construction have been purchased at the pre-construction phase 3 to 5 years ago those are already spoken for. So the new immigration and the new population coming into Toronto doesn't have access to those because those are already purchased. And of those, only 32,000 are actually completing per year. So that gives you a great picture of how low and constrained the supply side of the equation is, and how the supply really does not match the demand, and that puts upward pressure on prices and rents as well. So those are real estate fundamentals that I chatted about. You've got the Greater Toronto Area, that's a magnet for new residents. Most people come to move to cities that they have friends and family in, and most settle around the GTA. Like I mentioned, it's a diversified economy. It's the financial center of the country. We've got we've got the top banks, we've got industry, tech sector is moving, education, medical. Lots of industry to choose from within the Greater Toronto Area. Supply is constrained. There's not enough land to continue building either, which is just why the focus is on density, specifically on transit-oriented locations. It's very popular. The city is very popular with international students. So we see a high population of international students coming into the market as well. International business and tourism. Lots of tourism draws a lot of people into the city as well. So the benefits of buying pre-construction condos. Now, everyone has a unique set of goals. Pre-construction can help you achieve some of your goals. So I'll share my story. I'm an immigrant. My family immigrated over 20 years ago, and we immigrated from countries where we were not allowed to purchase property. So for my family, it was very important to have a sense of belonging. And one of the ways to do that was to buy property. So a lot of immigrants have similar experiences and similar emotional attachments to owning a property and becoming homeowners. And which is why we see a lot of immigrants coming with money and purchasing property in the Greater Toronto Area. So I've lived with that experience, and it's really important to me to continue having home ownership for myself. So I started off with my first condo purchase at pre-construction when I was 22 years old, right out of my undergrad. And my motivator then was to own property for myself and build assets for myself for the longer term. Today, as a mother of two young children, and I'm looking to build generational wealth. I see where the market is heading. I've been working in it for over 20 years. The prices are increasing rapidly. Land is becoming scarce, and the opportunity to own home ownership in an affordable terms is decreasing as well. So my goals currently are to invest as heavily as I can for assets for my children, because our incomes aren't rising as rapidly as real estate prices are. So I'm not sure if my kids, when they're of age, are able to purchase real estate, or if I will be able to purchase real estate for them then. So my goals today have evolved, and my motivation is to build generational wealth and also plan for retirement. And so I'm working now. I can afford, I've got mortgages on my properties that the renters are paying for. But as soon as, hopefully over the next 15, 20 years, these properties are paid off. And at that point, I'm ready to retire. And I look at the rent as rental income to sustain my retirement years. Another reason why investors are really attracted to pre-construction is the power of leverage. And that's because you're only required to put down 20% of the asset value. So 20% of the purchase price is all you have to put down. And then you wait for 3 to 5 years for the property for the building to construct and complete. The builder is taking on the larger risk, the balance, the 80%. Not you. You're putting down 20%. Now, organically, real estate prices increase, and by the time the property is complete, your property would have appreciated in value, but you only put down 20% on the purchase price 5 years ago. So that's been a lucrative investment model for investors, leveraging, taking advantage of the power of leverage. There's no bidding wars when you get into pre-construction, as you do with resale transactions. because the price is set by the builder, and you walk in and work through a worksheet, and you apply, you submit a worksheet to purchase the condo. Also, and pre-construction is brand new. Everything, when you get the keys, everything in the condo is under warranty. The appliances that the condo comes with are under warranty through the manufacturers. The unit itself is under warranty through the Terry-On warranty program. Different parts of the unit are under warranty from 1 to 7 years. And it's a long-term closing date, so it gives you plenty of time to ride the wave of these uncertain market times with the higher interest rates, and also work towards qualifying to take on a mortgage at that point when the building is complete. And the easy and extended deposit payment plans that we talked about earlier. So there's many reasons people invest in pre-construction, and it can meet some of your unique investment goals. Now, the purchase price process for pre-construction condos is also very different from the resale process. So it's very important to start off similarly with the resale transaction to understand your buying capacity. So to meet with a mortgage broker to have a frank conversation, an open conversation about your finances, and to understand if you qualify to take in a mortgage, and what that budget is and what budget you should be focusing on, because there's lots to choose from. There's luxury product in pre-construction that's north of $1 million, and there's starter pre-construction, and starting from the high 400s and 500s. So it's important to know where you stand, so we can focus focus on a product to invest in for you. Contact a realtor, but not just any realtor. With pre-construction, you want to work with someone that is focused and specialized in pre-construction condos. This is important because they understand the contract that we talked about earlier, and also they have access and connections with builders and are able to get you on day one of a launch. It's important to get in on day one of a launch if you know exactly what you want to purchase, because that's the lowest price with the greatest incentives offered at a project launch. So work with the right realtor that has the right connections and access to the builders and the new project launches. You then sit with your realtor based on your purchase price and your unique investment goals. You select a project and unit type. Now, I always encourage investors to know exactly what your purpose is. Invest with a purpose. Is this an investment, or is this something you want to move into yourself? Because the criteria for selecting a unit would be different with both goals. If it's an investment, the focus would more be on numbers and rentability, because that's the goal, to rent it in the future. If it's a home that's you're going to be moving in, then things like view or layout or number of bedrooms would be more important. And for some people, floor height, etc., is more important. So it's important to understand your purpose when you're investing. Once we've selected a project in this suite, we submit a worksheet to the builder. So we submit this worksheet, and with our desired unit, the floor plan, price range, idea of floor, and whether you want a parking or locker or not, and we submit it to the builder, and the builder gets back to us with the unit based on our asks. Once we have the unit, we sign the agreement of purchase and sale, which is the contract. It's done electronically. You're required to drop off your deposit, your initial deposit. Typically, it's $10,000 draft from the bank that you drop off. And you head into, after your signing, you head into your due diligence period in the 10 days cooling off period, 10 calendar days from the day you sign the contract. You will do your lawyer review in the 10 days, and you can visit the sales center again to have any additional questions answered. From day 11 onwards, you are in a firm and binding deal. So it's important to qualify yourself. Again, it's the same idea of what is your purpose? Why are you here? Why are you looking to invest? Is this an investment property? Is this a home for yourself? Is it for your children? What is your goal? Once you're clear on the goal, it'll really help you navigate through the different projects and different layouts and different areas. For example, there's no shortage of projects to choose from, but it's important to choose the right project that matches your goals and to work with someone who understands these projects, because not all projects are created equal and not all projects are great investments either. So here's some criteria you can work through when you're trying to examine or trying to determine what your purpose, your investment goals are. So what are your objectives? Is it capital appreciation? Are you looking for rental income? Perhaps you're heavily invested in the stock market, and this is your way of diversifying your investment portfolio, adding some real estate to it. What is your life cycle stage or lifestyle? Are you ready to be landlord? Do you want to be landlord? And that can really help, like you understand what type of property you want to go into. For myself, as I mentioned, I have young kids. I'm busy. I've got with my work and my personal life. I don't want to be a landlord of multiple houses where I have to worry about the furnace breaking down or the landscaping or the shoveling. For me, I want something easier. So pre-construction condos where it's all brand new makes sense for the type of landlord I want to be in, and that's clear for me. Do you need a place to live in the interim? Like, is this for you? Are you looking for the future? And what's the timeline? Is it for your children? So we've got a lot of investors and looking to invest for their children, myself included. So we've got time. So we don't need a project that's going to be finished immediately. And we're looking for areas that possibly that have universities that our kids could possibly go in and hopefully live in the condo instead of renting at that point. So really be clear on what the purpose is. An important question to ask is, what's your risk tolerance like? That really help you also determine your price range as well. How are your finances? How much savings do you have? A lot of first-time home buyers have just enough savings to make the first couple of deposits, but they know their annual bonus will help them meet their next deposits installments as well. So having a clear understanding of your finances will really help. And we've seen a lot of people get more creative with housing affordability. It's about, as I mentioned, spending time in the market, not necessarily timing the market. So we've got young folks and seasoned investors wanting to get into the market, and a way of doing that is co-investing. So you've got friends or family, you both go in and share the deposit payments. It's easier on both, and it gets both into the market at the same time versus sitting on the sidelines and waiting to collect or save up your down payment for the right time. So now I'll pass it on to Mark from CentreCourt, and Mark can share the builder's perspective on how to identify the right locations.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Medea. And thank you for everyone for coming and taking their time to learn more about pre-construction and some of the nuances to buying pre-construction condo. As Medea said, my name is Mark Harley, sales consultant with CentreCourt Developments, and we're quite a unique developer compared to a lot of other developers throughout the GTA. Something that separates us from a lot of the other developers is number one, we are a fully integrated company. So what that basically means is the sales team, such as myself, Shalini and Norris, who are part of the sales team, the construction team, land acquisitions, administrative, as well as the customer care team are all under one umbrella. So we only focus on CentreCourt projects. Secondly, we are a team that basically are one of the most active builders in the GTA. So if you haven't heard about us, we move very efficiently, to say the least. But when you look at the amount of condos that we have launched, we have sold and completed in the last 13 years, the only other builder in the GTA that has been able to keep up with us or succeeds the amount that we have done would be Tridel. So we're really in good company. So what we like to do and what we focus on is making sure that our locations of our sites are in AAA locations. And we find that that is giving us the most success in the past 13 years and onwards with some of the developments that we're currently selling. Because people are able to see value not only in what they're buying at pre-construction, but most importantly, from an investor point of view, but also from a resale point of view, in ways that you're always going to see a return on your investments today and in the future. So what we always look for in all of the sites that we look to sell, acquire land, and develop are these four boxes here that if you're looking to buy with us, or any other builder in the market in the GTA, you always want to make sure that these 4 boxes are checked off. And the first one that we see here are the amenities and major institutions. You always want to make sure that even in the world that we live in today, people want to live, work, play, and enjoy the surroundings near their homes for added convenience where you don't have to use a car. And in many cases, you don't have to Uber anywhere to go. So things like having a mall nearby, restaurants, shops, being close to the lake are some of the advantages and some of the amenities that you want to look at so that you can always look at getting strong returns on your investment, both from a resale, but also from a tenanted point of view. Employment nodes. You always want to be next to major employment nodes. I know Medea had mentioned one, for example, a school where regardless of the economic condition, you're always going to see that those businesses are thriving. And I would even say in downturn economies, places like schools where people want to reinvent themselves and re-educate and learn and find themselves in a better position so that they don't find themselves in a negative point of view is a place where actually would do very well in a downturn market. So you always want to be areas close to schools, hospitals, airports, because people are always traveling. These are some of the advantages and some of the examples that you could always use. Transportation. Because people are relying less and less for using cars because there's an added expense, gas. I just saw the other day, I'm almost paying close to $2 a liter now to fill up my car. The maintenance of a car, insurance of a car, less and less people want to find more efficient ways to move around the city and the GTA. So what better way to be able to move around at a more efficient cost than using public transit? So you always want to make sure that people are close to public transit so that, again, they're able to have more added convenience around them, which is some of the major amenities that you want to be close to. But also they're able to use and don't have to rely on a car as much. And of course, unique opportunities. Like Medea was saying, you always want to get in early into any development through the GTA, but more importantly, areas that are looking for a more grander redevelopment. So master plan communities is a very unique opportunity that doesn't come very often throughout the GTA. So that you'll see that as each building is being developed, you're going to see a new benchmark in price. And as each new benchmark in prices are set, you've now realized that the people who are willing to buy your particular suite at new prices, at tomorrow's prices, you'll see an appreciation of value of your particular home as well. So just moving on to the next slide. Now that we've identified the area that you want to focus on, I think the next best thing that you should be really looking at is who you're going to do business with, because you're going to be aligning your time and most importantly, your money with a builder. So you want to make sure that they have your best interest. But of course, you want to basically vet them. You want to almost in a way interview them and understand who you're getting in business with, because there are many developers that are in the market today. And I'm sure that you are being inundated with a large amount of emails to learn more about these different developers, but you want to know which ones separate this builder from the other builder and why you want to work with certain builders. So some of the questions you may want to ask, such as myself, a part of the sales team, or just doing your own independent research, whether it be Googling or speaking with Medea as your pre-con agent, is knowing, first of all, what have they sold in the past? Where have they sold? How well has the project done? And what has been happening in that particular area since the time they sold to the time it's completed, and what kind of potential changes and progressions are happening in that particular area. Canceled projects. You want to know if the builder has in the past canceled any projects, and if they've canceled any projects, understand what was the reason. So there can be many different reasons, such as lack of sales, or the fact that they started the sales process without getting the proper approvals through the city to make what they agreed upon or what they promised to actually be able to deliver. What they've sold and what they've built kind of go hand in hand. And so you want to know that they have the experience of building what they say that they're going to build. So we know, for example, we've got a presentation center out in Durham region, which is our Pickering City Center communities. And we know that some of the developers in that particular area, surprisingly, have never actually sold any high-rise condos. And so when you look into the background, you know that they're a fairly young developer that have little or no experience selling high-rise condos, but in fact have focused on custom homes. So these are some of the things that you want to probe and understand, because there is a huge difference between selling a low-rise detached home, custom home, which are one-offs here and there, versus building a whole new community, which they're advertising. So these are some of the things that you want to also look into. You want to know how fast they build. It's very important, especially in the market and the market conditions that we're in today, because the longer it can take for a builder to sell, it can cost more and more money, not only to carry the land, but the cost of the labor, but also the cost of the material. And as those rates start to go up, the risk of that project canceling becomes greater and greater. So these are also very important. Reputation, you want to know that based on their past developments, they've delivered what they say that they were going to deliver. And again, working with someone like Medea, who's well-versed in the pre-construction area, will be able to separate the strong developers versus the other developers who may not be too strong. But also that comes with experience and knowing what they've built in the past and being able to walk through some of their past developments and see exactly what the finished product will look like. And lastly and not least, you want to look at partnerships and teams. Just as how your money and your time is being aligned with the developer, you want to make sure that that developer has aligned themselves with a strong team around them to deliver what they're going to build. I know in the past, I've seen many developments that are happening throughout the GTA, and they were actually some really great opportunities for people to buy. But unfortunately, because they didn't align themselves with the right sales and marketing team, they weren't necessarily able to let everyone know what was going on in that particular development. And as a result, the lack of sales caused that particular development to cancel. So you always want to make sure that the team you're working with has the right architecture, the right sales and marketing teams, and the right advertising to let people know everyone that they're selling this project, so that when you are buying, everyone else is also seeing what you see, and they want to make sure that that development is completed. So moving right along, once we've identified the location and you've identified the developer, you now want to have a market analysis. And as Medea was saying before, understanding what you can afford, what your comfort levels are, what you're looking for, understanding the market analysis. If you're looking for rent, what kind of rent rates you should be anticipating, where the rent can be going in the future. If you're looking for resale, what the current resale market is in that particular area, and what the trends are moving to when your completion of your project is happening. If we can go to the next slide. Also, financial projections. Again, if you're looking at this from an investment point of view, what kind of numbers you could see, anticipate in the future, making sure that your goals and objectives are being met. Are you buying this as an investment? And if you are, is it a cash flow or an equity growth type of deal? Are you diversifying your portfolio in this investment? Or you're looking to buy this as your end user home and you just want to enjoy it and the area as it grows. And also, of course, you're going to evaluate the potential risks. Not every condo that you buy in any area that you're buying, there will be some risk involved, but it's a matter of just being able to minimize those risks and understand what you're buying is going to be a sound investment over the years to come. So on the next one, this slide here is very important, and I like to focus and stress a lot about the truth about pre-construction, because a lot of times what will happen when you're going into some of these different presentation centers is that the sales team will paint a rosy picture and give you all the information that you need to know in terms of why it would be a sound investment. But sometimes there are times where you're walking in, you're speaking to the sales team, and they may not tell you the full story or give you the full picture as what to expect in terms of what you're buying. and things that you should know before buying it. So these are some of the truths about pre-construction that I just want to touch on real quickly. So the first one being, the more it costs to build, the higher the price. So we know in different areas of the GTA, it will fetch more money than in other areas, which is why you tend to see a lot of builders right now not put a lot of emphasis in downtown Toronto, because at this time, the cost to acquire the land, the time it costs to build, and the complexities of building in downtown Toronto can be quite costly. So you're seeing up to $2,000 per square foot in downtown Toronto. Whereas if you go outside of the city and you can be a little bit more creative with your money, you can also see more value and stretch your money a little bit more, which is why we tend to see a lot of people in this day and age looking to stretch their money, get more value, and looking to build and buy outside of the GTA. So for example, if you were to buy a 500,000 or 500 square foot one bedroom in downtown Toronto at $2,000 per square foot, quick math would suggest that it's going to be close to $1 million. And for $1 million, $1 million is a lot of money to say that you're buying a one bedroom home. However, if you're looking outside of the city, because the land is not as expensive as it would be in downtown Toronto, people are looking to buy outside of the downtown core where they have close to public transportation, being able to enjoy all of the features that Toronto has at a train ride or a subway ride away. And you're looking at, say, 500 square foot homes outside of the downtown core going for approximately $500,000. So there's opportunities that are there. Like I mentioned before, a new benchmark price is set with each new project. So as each new tower comes along, because it's coming down later in the sales cycle, you are seeing it cost more just based on the labor, the material, but also government intervention. So the sooner you're able to get into the real estate market, we always encourage people to do so, because as time goes on, you'll likely see the value of those prices go up, and it'll cost more for the same property that you could have bought previously. And we always encourage people, when they are buying pre-construction, we understand that it can take up to 3 to 6 years for that project to build, but we always encourage people to stay in the pre-construction as long as you can. It's a long-term game, a long-term gain in terms of your investments, whether you're looking at it from an end user point of view or if you're looking at it as an investment. The longer you're able to keep that home, you will see the values go higher and higher as time goes. So these are a couple of things that you always want to focus on. On the next slide, and this couldn't be more important, and I know working with Medea, she not only has a team surrounding her that can assist both from a resale, but also from a pre-construction point of view, is that your real estate lawyer is very crucial in who you select in reviewing your agreement of purchase and sale, particularly in pre-construction. So I can tell you just from experience, a lot of times when people are going to a resale lawyer, they may or may not have the wherewithal or the understandings of a pre-construction agreement, because like Medea had mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, a resale agreement of purchase and sale is roughly 7 pages, whereas a pre-construction agreement of purchase and sale is 50 plus pages. So if you're not familiar with what's going on in the agreement, it can be a little bit intimidating for some, which is why we always encourage everyone, when you get a real estate lawyer, make sure that they are a pre-construction real estate lawyer, or they have done deals in pre-construction. They've done a large volume, so they are able to review and focus on the important parts of that agreement, because even though it is 50 pages, you can condense it to a handful of pages that makes or breaks the difference between putting down X amount of dollars in terms of closing costs, or 10 times that, and leaves you exposed for a lot of opportunity for higher expenses. We'll also talk about that as well, but we will talk about the fact that there's no running away from closing costs, just as how you are buying a pre-construction condo or a resale house. There are closing costs that are associated with that. And so we want to talk about that as well, because that's something that we've also noticed based on my experience, where some sales reps, when you're walking in, may not talk about that. And so to get you prepared, so when you do meet that real estate lawyer and they do give you those closing costs, it doesn't come as a complete shock, which is why we always think that proper planning is key. making sure you're speaking with Medea, you're very candid and open, transparent as to what you're looking for, what you're able to do in terms of finances and what your comfort zones are. So when you do find yourself buying that particular home, you are well prepared and there will be no shocks or any surprises, hidden surprises that come your way. So if we go into the next slide, we really talk about the closing costs. And so closing costs can vary depending on the variables that are taken into consideration in purchasing that pre-construction condo. I do know that in resale, they would, depending on what part of the city you're buying, whether it be in downtown Toronto or the suburbs of Toronto, the closing costs would be roughly 1 to 2% of the purchase price that would factor in land transfer tax, legal fees, and whatnot. For pre-construction condos, it's a little bit more. And so depending on what point of view you're looking to buy it at, it can vary between 5 to 8%. So for example, if you are a first-time buyer and you're buying outside of the downtown core or outside of the 416 area code, and you're buying it as your primary residence, you're likely to be closer to the 5 than the 8% of the purchase price of closing costs. Whereas if you're buying in, say, downtown Toronto, it's a higher end $1 million+ home. This is not your first time buying, and you are buying it from an investment point of view, you're likely to pay more closer to 8%. So we like to say around 6% of the purchase price is what to anticipate. And that would include things like development charges, land transfer tax, things of that nature. Every time you go into a pre-construction home or a presentation center and you're looking at the price list or the price sheet, you are safe to assume that HST is included in the price. And there's normally in the fine print to say that HST has also been factored in. So the HST and the HST rebate have already been factored into the price because the builder takes the side that anyone who is buying the home, they're buying it as their primary home and they're using it as their primary use. So when you are buying it from an investment point of view, there is the HST rebate to consider. So HST rebate is an amount that you can get up to $24,000 to be paid on closing, again, which is why it's closer to the 8% of the purchase price, what your closing costs are. However, if you are buying it as an investment, you are providing the CRA proof of a 1-year lease, and you've had this and you own the property, you can apply through your lawyer, real estate lawyer, accountant, and or the HST rebate companies that are out there to apply for a rental rebate, where within a matter of 6 to 8 weeks, you would get that $24,000 back by the CRA. And of course, all of the houses, you want to make sure that a part of the agreement of purchase and sale, again, one of the reasons why it's 50+ pages is that there's a Tarion statement of critical dates, which is an addendum added onto the agreement that not only protects a portion of your deposits, but also to make sure that you're protected in knowing how long it should take for your project or your home to be completed. And if there are any delays, what steps the builder needs to take to communicate to you in an efficient timeline what the new delays or what delays would be and what the new anticipated closing is going to be. Of course, because you're looking at projects that can take 3 to 6 years, it's hard to say what the future will see. Perfect example of that was the pandemic, where people may have bought a condo 2018, 2019, and in the process of that project being completed, there was the pandemic that completely put everything at a standstill or at a halt. So these are a couple of examples why having the Tarion warranty is very important. And of course, the Tarion warranty also warranties your home. And the easiest way I like to compare it to is buying a brand new car. So if you're buying a brand new car, you know that the car is under warranty. So for the first year, like your car would be bumper to bumper warranty, so everything within the car is under warranty, so would be with your home. So things like the appliances, flooring, countertops, these are examples of under warranty for the first year that should be remedied within that year, notably with the builder. And if the builder disputes or they're not wanting to do it for whatever reason, you do have Tarion as your backup, your insurance policy to get those things done. As years go by, that warranty becomes a little bit limited. So in the second year, things like water seepage, electrical, HVAC are a couple of things that would be under the first heating, ventilation, air conditioning stands for HVAC, would be for the first 2 years. And then 7 years, like the engine of your car, would be the structure of the actual building. So all of this you want to make sure is all there in the agreement of purchase and sale. So if we go to the next slide. Which is why it's very important when you are having your agreement of purchase and sale reviewed within the 10 calendar day cooling off period, that you have a real estate lawyer that specializes in pre-construction. So not only is the time very sensitive within the 10 calendar days, because that you want to make sure that your lawyer handles a large volume of pre-construction contracts. So just a helpful hint or tip for everybody, there's only a handful of real estate lawyers throughout the GTA that pretty much drafts all the agreement of purchase and sales for all the developers that are in the city or in the GTA. So making sure having your real estate lawyer specialize in pre-construction is key, because if they're able to recognize an agreement of purchase and sale from a certain lawyer, they'll know exactly what to focus on in an efficient timeline, which should give you peace of mind that you are getting the best information in a timely manner. There are 10 calendar days, and it can go very fast when you're buying a pre-construction condo, especially if it's your first one. But having a lawyer who is able to get you the answers within a matter of days. And when I say a matter of days, they should be able to receive the agreement, review the agreement, and provide you with suggestions and ideas on what better ways to protect yourself within a 3 to 4 day turnaround. If they're not able to do that, then you may want to have some concerns. So some of the things you may want to ask the lawyer is, how often in a 1 month period do they work with pre-construction condos throughout the GTA, and ask them some examples of what they've done. So you know exactly that they are telling you what they're telling you is accurate and complete, and knowing that what they're saying is true to their word. Your lawyer also wants to make sure that you are an investor versus an end user, because like I mentioned before, closing costs can vary. And of course, once they've determined what type of view you're looking to buy this particular condo, they can basically crunch the numbers and give you an understanding of what your closing costs are. Again, working with us here at CentreCourt, but more importantly, having Medea as your real estate agent, you'll be able to understand and get a better understanding what your numbers are before you get to this point. So again, when you are standing or sitting in front of this real estate lawyer, there are no shock. You'll know exactly what to expect, and there will be no surprises as to what your closing costs might be. If we want to go on to the next slide. Your lawyer's top priorities are making sure that your house is under warranty, is covered by Tarion. Of course, all new builders are required to have the Tarion statement of critical dates. But if they don't have that, then that's something that you want to be concerned about. You also want to make sure that any deposits that you're making, including the initial $10,000 or $5,000 deposit draft that you're making, post-dated checks, are being held in a trust account, which is a separate entity to the builder. So if anything was to happen to the builder for whatever reason, not only is it under warranty, but you know for sure that it's separate from the builder. And as a result, it would be a lot easier for you to get that money, because the only time that the builder would be able to access that trust account is when the building is closed. And again, your lawyer, with a large volume of agreement of purchase and sales coming in front of their desk, will have an understanding of which builder you're working with, and have an understanding of what their reputations are, knowing that they are a reputable builder, and be able to, in efficient timeline, focus on the agreement of purchase and sale and understand some of the things that they need to focus on, because ultimately you want to make sure that there is some cost certainty, and if there's any holes that are left, that they're capped or closed, so that you have cost certainty when you come closing on your particular home. If we can go to the next slide. And this is where you would make sure that your lawyer's making sure that you're protected, your rights are protected, and that everything is done in your best interest. You know exactly what your closing costs are going to be. And of course, the final thing that your lawyer wants to make sure is they understand completely the pre-con, you understand the pre-con process and exactly what you're getting yourself into. So we can go to the next slide. So, like Medea had brought up, and it was a great story that she brought up about rethinking mortgages, is that in some parts of the world, if you are even able to buy property, some parts of the world don't even allow you to get a mortgage. So instead of putting down, say, 20% of the purchase price, you actually have to put down 100%. And so this makes it very challenging for a lot of people in different parts of the world to be able to get into the real estate market, which is why rethinking mortgages and understanding mortgages is actually an asset tool, because then you can diversify your money and use it as a way to facilitate home ownership, but also to not put you handcuffed into this one home and be able to do other things with your money, or even look into buying another possible home if that's what you're looking for. So understanding, working with Medea, you're working with someone who's well-versed, not only in the real estate resale, but also in the pre-construction real estate world. She has a strong team and networking of lawyers that can also look into from a resale, but also from a pre-construction point of view. And lastly, and most importantly, she knows that she has the team around her to assist you with getting that mortgage. So anything that you may have, any questions that you might have when it comes to a pre-construction, real estate, resale, pre-construction, legal point of view, general information on all of these aspects, or if you want to learn more specifically on any of this, you are in safe hands with Medea, and she'll be glad to assist you with that. And last but not least, let's talk about some of the projects that CentreCourt has in store. So a very important stat that I always like to talk about when it comes to talking about the various developers throughout the GTA is that in 2023, there was a very interesting stat by Urban Nation, who basically focuses on the statistics and understanding the pre-construction world within the GTA. In 2023, there were 67 launches of condos in 2023. And for any of these buildings to actually get construction financing, they need to achieve 70% in sales so that the builder can get the additional money required to actually build and complete the project. So in 2023, of the 67 projects, only 9 achieved that particular goal threshold. And we're happy to say at CentreCourt that of those 9, we have 2 of those 9 projects, one of which being Kipling Station Condos, which is located in the downtown Etobicoke area, just on the southwest corner of Dundas and Auckland Road, gives you immediate access to local transportation by way of TTC and Mississauga buses, regional buses by GO and train, and uniquely Toronto Pearson, which is an express bus from Kipling Station to Pearson International Airport that gets you there in about 15 minutes. We're happy to say that this project is 95% sold. We're planning on starting construction this summer, and we're anticipating people moving in about the summer of 2027. For incentives, we've got great incentives, great suites that are available. Always speak to Medea, and she'll be glad to shed some light on that as well. The next project that we have is, and here's the map, located at 5251 Dundas Street West on the southwest corner of Dundas and Auckland Road. You are just 2-minute walk, literally a 2-minute walk away from any mode of transportation to get you anywhere in the city and abroad. So you know that regardless of the season, time of year, you're always 2 minutes away to get anywhere in the city, in an area which is a brand new blossoming area, which is the new downtown Etobicoke. If you go to the next slide, Medea, you can see where over 30 new developments are happening in this particular area. Over 15,000 new condo suites are being built in this area. And as you notice, Kipling Station Condos is highlighted here in orange. Highlighted in green is the Kipling Transit Hub, which will get you to all the major public transportation nodes that will get you anywhere in the city and in the province and abroad. But as you can see, with all these new developments that are coming highlighted in blue, we are still the closest and will always be the closest to the Kipling Transit Hub. You'll also find some great value here as well. And again, Medea will be glad to bring you up to speed with the incentives and the prices that we're offering. The next project that we have is Pickering City Center. And this is in a master plan community, over 55 acres of land being redeveloped and being brought to life new condos, which is just steps away from the mall. We've identified this area as there being a severe condo shortage in Durham region. So the area is dominated by low-rise houses, which is challenging because I just recently saw in the news that in Durham region, the average price of a low-rise home is approximately a little bit over $1 million. So for anyone who wants to get into the real estate world, it's very challenging to get in as your first home being $1 million. I can tell you my first home was not $1 million. But I do live in a larger home based on building the equity and starting from small and working my way up. As I mentioned before, 55-acre master plan community by CentreCourt, and we look at the mall as an advanced built-in infrastructure as an asset, and everything surrounding Pickering, which is a great area, including Frenchman's Bay, about 5 minutes away. You've got within a 5-minute walk, Go Pickering Station, Go train that can get you to downtown Toronto, Union Station in less than 45 minutes. And there's also Durham Live, which is also a 5-minute drive away. You've also got the PCC Investor Blueprint. So these unique opportunities that I mentioned, being able to buy into one of the first 2 towers that we're currently selling. So the second tower that we are 95% sold is Tower 1 of Pickering City Center. Tower 2 is currently for sale as well. That's about 60% sold, but we're planning to start construction on both of these projects, with construction and closing being around 2027. And of course, the prices that we offer here, as well as the prices that we offer in downtown Etobicoke, are below market. So, which is why people are seeing a lot of value being able to buy into an area with a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity, and a lot of value here. So we're always priced to sell. And just to look at some of the comparables, prices in Durham, our prices at Pickering City Center are in the mid 400s. When you compare that to Toronto or any other Durham area or any other GTA, it pales in comparison in price. When you go on to the next slide, it'll talk about the 1-bedroom and dens, which are in the mid 500s. Now you're looking at around $1 million for a condo in downtown Toronto, Halton region, Mississauga, York, like Markham, still at a better value. And then when you move on to our junior 2 beds, which is a 1-bedroom and den with 2 full bathrooms, we offer some great investment and great opportunities here. And then our next slide would be our 2-bedroom suites, which are also competitive in price. But of course, I thought there was a 2-bedroom slide, but that's okay. If you have any questions at this time, I think it's a great time for anyone to ask us any questions, as this is the time to do it. But of course, if you don't want to ask any questions or you can't think of any questions, you have the right resources and networking with Medea, who'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, in the interest of time, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. I appreciate you being here. I hope you found this informative and useful. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Everyone, I've dropped my contact information in the chat. You have me on your email as well. Please, reach out if you have any additional questions, and I'd be happy to jump on a call and chat further. Thanks, everyone.